Welcome to the Conscious Living Podcast, conversations to educate, empower, and enlighten our world. An uplifting and inspiring series of conversations and talks with your host, Jackie Woodside. We are educating minds, empowering lives, and enlightening souls to create a world where love prevails. In this engaging podcast, we deliver exciting, positive, transformative talks and teachings designed to elevate your life. Now, let's join our host, Jackie Woodside, for this week's session.
Hi there, Jackie Woodside here, the founder and the host of the Conscious Living Podcast, where we are here to educate, empower, and enlighten our world. Thank you so much for being one of the people that cares about that topic, about what does it take to live life more consciously anyway? And what's the benefit of it? I think a lot about why bother? Why bother waking up? Why bother being conscious? Well, because it is a really enlightened and empowered way to be in the world. So it's creating a better world for all of us. So thank you for joining me again today. I am just so excited and very, very pleased to welcome to the stage a new friend and colleague, Tamara Doris, who is from California, who is, I'm just so blown away by this, an author of 22 books on manifestation and energy and consciousness. I can't wait to dive into this interview. She's a full-time coach and an adjunct professor, just an extraordinarily experienced and talented entrepreneur. So Tamara, thank you so much for being with us on the Conscious Living Podcast. Do you mind just saying a bit more about yourself to help our listeners get to know you?
Absolutely. First, let me just say thank you for that introduction and say right back at you. I'm equally impressed with you. Yeah, I call myself I call myself an alignment coach, because when it comes down to it, it's really, really all about keeping ourselves in alignment. And so originally I was probably 22 years ago, I was studying to be a therapist. And I really began to understand that the subconscious mind was everything. So I became certified in hypnotherapy, and I had a brick and mortar hypnotherapy center. And I really realized that the subconscious mind is just everything. And it kind of snowballed into where I am today with manifestation, because really, what do people go to a hypnotherapist for if not to change something about their lives? Right. And whether we want more money, your specialty, or we want to find a soulmate or attract more clients, whatever it is, it's through our thoughts that it's going to happen. And it's through our thoughts that we don't acquire it.
So fascinating. So I have so much I want to ask you about this. How are you defining subconscious mind? We use that phrase a lot, but what do you actually mean by it?
A lot. So my interpretation and teaching of it, Jackie, is anything that is below our conscious level of awareness.
Okay, but then you talked about our thoughts.
Right.
So are you saying those thoughts that are below our conscious level of awareness?
Well, here's a little fun fact for you.
Okay.
The average human has about 50 or 60,000 thoughts a day. Now, as we're sitting here talking, we can really only have one or two thoughts, or we'll lose our train of thought. So those 60 to 70,000 thoughts, 90% of them, if not more, are unconscious, subconscious, beyond the level of consciousness. So let me give you an example. Let's say someone comes to me and they're like, "Oh, I want to write a book, Tamara. Can you help me? I really want to write a book." And I'm like, "Sure." Consciously, that person wants to write a book. But if that person has a subconscious belief that says, "You're not good enough, you can't possibly do that, who do you think you are?" Even though he or she may be saying, "I want this," if it's like David and Goliath, right? If this big part of you, the thoughts are saying, "No, you can't have it." And in my experience, Jackie, that is the number one issue that most people who don't have what they want, that's what they're facing. There's a part of them that doesn't want it.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. But, maybe I'm being too picky here, but if a thought isn't conscious, is it really a thought?
It is, because we know this through neuroscience, because anytime two neurons connect, they fire and wire together. Even if you're not aware of it, it's still going on. Let me ask you this, Jackie, when's the last time you thought about your heart beating?
Oh, I don't think about my heart beating.
Right. And so we do behavior because it's programmed in.
Right. But is that a thought though?
I
See,
think so.
like, so the first thing you said is about the subconscious mind is if someone hires you to write a book, but subconsciously they don't believe it. See, I think, I don't know. I mean, I think about this a lot. You know, I was a therapist for many, many years. And this whole thing about the subconscious, I don't know that I think about the subconscious as thoughts, because I think about thought as being what we are aware of. And I agree with you that there's a whole world, maybe that's an exaggeration, but there's a part of us that's operating kind of below the surface, if you will.
Right.
Like you think about the ocean.
Yeah, look, go ahead. Think about
Yeah,
the ocean.
you think about the ocean where like you can look out and you see all this activity and all of these waves. But then if you go down to the very bottom, there's very little happening. There's not much movement. I think about human beings are kind of like that, you know, that on the surface, our minds are very, very busy. And yet we have this still center that we can get to if we can go through all of the layers of being, like the ocean.
Absolutely. And so my response to that would be your subconscious mind is like the riptide between the waves and before the surface. I absolutely believe and teach that once we find our calm center, we get beyond. We get beyond the busy mind and the busy subconscious mind. So maybe let's agree on this. If a child, let's just say, is really abused, they develop a program that says, I'm not good enough, or the world's not safe. And that those are neural networks that form in their brain that are always playing on autopilot. So whether we call it a thought, an unconscious thought, or a conscious thought, it's part of that child's programming.
Yeah. Yeah.
And through hypnotherapy, we can get, I consider hypnosis the gateway, if you will, to open up the subconscious mind so we can change those programs, but also on a deeper level, like via meditation, where we can get behind and beyond the subconscious, which in your analogy would be the bottom of the ocean where it's nice and still.
Wow, so fascinating. Now, let me ask you this, Tamara. This is such an interesting conversation because, you know, I was a therapist for 30 years.
Yes, I know.
My
daughter's a therapist.
What's that?
My daughter's a therapist.
Oh, so nice. That's great. I'm sure you guys have really great, engaging conversations.
Right,
That's awesome. You know, and I've also been a coach for 30 years. Okay. So all I know really is human beings. I've talked to hundreds, if you know, thousands of human beings about the course of their life. And I have this question all the time. And it's not, you know, you said maybe we can agree on this. I actually don't disagree with you. I just feel like there's so much we still don't know.
Oh, I agree.
So, you know, every time I have this conversation with people, experts like you, I like to just push the envelope so we keep deepening our understanding, right? So I've worked with literally thousands of people, both in coaching and therapy, who some of them had really tragic, you know, trauma-laden lives. And some of them had kind of easier, more, I don't know, gentle experiences in life, you know, not the quote unquote bad parents or the poverty or the trauma experiences. But what I find, Tamara, is that everyone across the board has that inner voice that says, I'm not blank enough. Yeah. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not educated enough. I'm not whatever. So to what degree do you associate that with childhood and neuropatterning versus evolutionary development of, you know, both our neurology and our consciousness?
Oh, wow. That's a big, deep question. So one of the things I coined this phrase is not enoughnessitis. Because
not enoughnessitis. I love that.
Everybody has a case
Everybody has a case of it, right?
Everybody does. It's like, it absolutely is. So, you know, and we also have unconscious commitments to things that we don't even know we're unconsciously committed to. Like you're talking about the child that comes from some kind of tragedy. I think a lot of it, and I don't know with the evolution. I mean, I've followed Greg Braden for years, and I think he's one of the most wisest people who combines science and spirituality with how things evolve. So I really would say what he has to say about it is that we evolve as human beings, but the prefrontal cortex, as we know, is relatively new, right? It's the CEO of our thinking. So how that plays in, I can't say, but one thing I will tell you is that I'm a huge proponent, and I think you are too, of the biofield. You know,
Yes.
and I've done a lot of deep studying. I do a lot of, my hobby, if you will, is I'm a radionics operator. So I work with a lot of devices and technology because I love the science of intention, and I'm so obsessed with it, if you will, that I study this all the time, even when I don't have to, if you will. I just love to study it. And I think that the energy component, Jackie, has more to do with our evolution. Um, and who knows about past lives and all that stuff.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's not my forte. But I do believe that the energy of who we are
Yeah.
has an effect on our neurology, and our neurology has an effect on our energy.
Yeah.
So, like the child that we were talking about, if someone has a tragic life, that that gets caught or stuck or blocks their energy flow. And somehow, and I don't know how, but somehow that impacts the person's programming, which again goes to the neurology. So I believe our brains are neurological, biological, and our energy fields are not. And so it's
Right.
very hard to
Right.
explain the interactions that go on between the two. Does that make sense?
Oh, that makes such sense because I mean, we all know people like Oprah Winfrey had a lot of tragedy and trauma in her life, and she has risen to the height of like a global icon. So you can't, I say if it's not true all the time, then it can't be a capital T truth.
Right. But with Oprah, I would go so far as to say we're right back to square one with thoughts, because Oprah made a decision, a conscious decision, that consciously she would stay focused on what she wanted, no
Yes.
matter what happened externally, no matter what feelings or emotions in her subconscious may have popped up to sabotage her. She made a decision, and that's kind of what I'm here to preach about, not here today specifically, but in life, is to help people understand, no matter what background, no matter what, nothingnessitis you have, you can control these thoughts
Yes.
consciously, and you can make a decision, and you can stay in alignment to whatever it is you want out there, and you can make it happen.
That's
Yeah.
exactly it. See, that's what troubles me a little bit when people are like, well, first of all, I think people don't understand what was meant by the subconscious. So kind of, if I don't understand it, how can I do it? And then it's like, oh, it's about past conditioning. Therefore, I'm the victim of my past. And the message has to be, you can use your mind to train your brain to create a different experience in your life, regardless of what your background has been, regardless of how many times you failed, regardless of how much trauma or tragedy you've had. So let's go take this into, and I love what you said about the biofield. I want to hear a little bit more about that. And then can you link that now also? You are an expert in the field of manifestation. So I'd love to hear more about your thoughts about the biofield, what it is, how it relates to conscious living. And then if you want to piggyback that into your thoughts on manifestation and the work that you teach around that.
Okay, sure. So the biofield, and a lot of people have always called it the aura. And I like to be as much on this side of the fence of science as I can, only because I come from the corporate arena and I know how people can be. Although we are getting more open-minded, right?
Yes. Yeah.
If I say I'm going to create something in the quantum field, people don't roll their eyes quite as much as they used to, right?
No, and I think that's part of the evolution of consciousness that I was referring to earlier, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, so the biofield, our aura, our energetic field, it's like this toroid field, and it goes.
Wait, what? It's a what field?
It's a torrid.
What is? I don't know what that
means. Torridal, meaning it comes in through our head, out through our feet, and goes back around and back around and back around.
Okay. Yes.
There's a better word. I'm saying it wrong. I think it's torridial field. I don't know. Okay. I can't remember exactly.
I've
but anyway,
just not heard that word before.
Yeah, I'll message it to you later if in case I made a mistake. But it's your it's like a torus. It's a toral field. Anyway, this energy is what connects us to the energy of everyone else in the universe at whole, right? So it's coming in us, and it's also being emitted by us. Now, the quality of the energy that's coming from us has to do with our thoughts and how we think. And so, and I I get your questions and what you're thinking with subconscious mind and subconscious thoughts, and I'm really on the same page as you. But what I do know from hypnotherapy is that if I can help a person relax, or just they do it on their own, and they begin to feed themselves the beliefs and the thoughts that they want to feel and think, and the emotions are a super important part of it, which we could talk about later, but that if they can feed themselves that, what this is doing is it's changing. Consciously you've already got that, but it's changing you on a subconscious level. And I believe with all of my heart, the subconscious mind, whatever it is our sensory body. So if we can change energy on that level, now the energy that you're putting out into the cosmic field, the quantum field, is a different level. And this is where my technology comes in, and and all of the things that we talk about. You can do something simple, whether it's yoga or walk outside barefoot, but to get your energy clear, I believe has everything to do with manifesting effectively.
Wow. So to get your energy clear, again, I'm gonna listen like the novice listener. Okay.
Okay.
So what does that mean to get your energy clear?
So we have, and I'll even pull out one of my little fun tools here for you. We have with this field, when something happens, and something, whether it's our childhood or adulthood or whatever, and I said before, it causes a tear or a fragment or a scattering somewhere with inside of our energy field. Now, like there's who is my friend? I don't know if you know Pam Osley.
Oh, I adore Pam Oz.
Oh yeah, I think we've talked about this before.
Yeah,
Pam is just such a sweetheart. So Pam sees
have her
auras.
on
Now,
the podcast. I just
did you? Yeah.
I need
So
to have
Pam sees auras.
Yes.
So she can see the colors and whatnot of it. I do not see it in that way. I sense it. But we can relate because part of our energy body is our chakra system.
Yes.
And so every of the 7, and there's many chakras, but of the 7 main chakras we have, whatever age we are when something happens, and whatever the quality and the condition of that event, it gets stuck in a particular chakra system. And the chakra is what helps all that energy emit outward. So we can do things, and I use tuning forks a lot, and I don't sit here and do, I'm not woo woo, but I don't sit here and do this all the time, but I can trace someone's body and help bring the energy back in. And this is based on the sound science of Eileen Muzak, who's written some really compelling books on using tuning forks to heal the Biofield.
Wow.
So yeah, it's really, really interesting. But so when I say clear energy, what I mean is what goes in is very, very conducive to what goes out. So we eat clean food as much as we can. We're around nature. We kind of distance ourselves from social media and negative news, right? We love our animals. We do things that keep our energy pure and clean. And then when we do that, we also are healing this energetic center that surrounds our body. That is our body. And so that way, when it goes back out, it's more pure, more clean. So it's going to attract back into it more of the same. Does that make sense?
Oh, that was so clear, Tamara. That was just such a great, great description. So the things that people can do if they feel that their energy is blocked or not clear, or, they're having some of those experiences, are yoga. And you said grounding, walking outdoors or laying outdoors on the grass.
Meditating. I mean, that's number one. And the honest to goodness reason, Jackie, that I don't talk about it nonstop is because people are just, especially in our society today, where we're like, newsfeed, go. But meditation is probably one of the most greatest gifts that any of us could ever achieve, ever.
Yeah.
Right.
And I want to say a couple things about that. Meditation doesn't mean you have to be on the top of the mountain in the cross-leg position or sitting on the beach, all Zen.
You don't have to go to an ashram.
You don't have to go to an ashram. You can simply be in the chair and be still.
Yeah.
Just be still. Notice what your mind is doing. People are like, I have to stop my thoughts. No, you don't. That's why they call it a practice.
and that's what resistance is. And that's what makes it more challenging.
Right. The beginning meditator does not need to stop their thoughts. They simply need to sit still for a minute, 2 minutes, and observe what your mind is doing. It's such a blessing to be able to do that. So that's the first thing I wanted to say when we go into talking about meditation, because again, I want to really speak to the novice listener who perhaps hasn't devoted their lives to consciousness like you and I have. So But then let's go in and talk about, why do you say meditation is the number one thing to clear your energy field or your auric field?
Because I love that you asked that. Because in my research, in my experience, what I have found to be true is that manifestation is so much more efficient and effective when we come from a practice meditation. But here's the catch: you don't have to even cross your legs and meditate. It's all about brainwaves.
Mm.
So what I try to teach people, in and probably 12 of my books, I talk about this specific thing, and that's your brainwave. Don't worry about meditating. Practice on getting your brain waves relaxed. Practice on getting to the alpha level. Again, we're talking to the novice. So I would say most people, most of the time, when they're working, talking, whatever, are in a beta brainwave. And that's okay. But when it gets into a high beta brainwave, now we're talking about fear, cortisol, adrenaline, not
Yes.
healthy.
Yeah.
Sometimes we are, but the kind of meditation I'm talking about is intentionally reducing the brain waves. And boy, you start to get intuitive, you start to be more efficient in your manifestation, you start to have better health and more energy. So that's what I mean by meditation. I'm talking about getting it to a meditative brain state.
And how do you teach people to do that?
Well, use binaural beats, use my tuning fork. I do a lot of, in my coaching practice, I have a lot of audios that I share with my clients,
Mm.
guided hypnotherapy, and I use the binaural beats. Binaural beats, for your listeners, is when you've got a beat here and a beat here, and they're just off the left and right. So it causes a third beat that's not really even there in the middle. And what it does is it synchronizes your left and right brain hemispheres. It gives you whole brain thinking, but it also relaxes your amygdala and it just calms you down. So now you get to be the captain of your ship, and you get to give orders to your subconscious mind about the programs that you want to change, about how you do love yourself, how you do believe in yourself, and things start to unfold, and it starts manifesting externally.
So when you're saying meditation, what you're actually meaning is to put on a headset or AirPods and listen to binaural beats?
Yes. When someone is just beginning, and if they really are, I tend to work with a lot of women who are in what I will just call fight or flight. Like they can't slow down, right? They just can't. They're the ones that would say to you, I just can't stop my brain. I can't stop thoughts.
Yeah.
So I start them, yes, definitely with a headset or with earbuds to learn what an alpha level is at, to learn what it feels like. My hope and my goal and my intention is that people learn how to do this without having any kind of music, that they can just go sit in their den on a chair, or that they can just go sit in the backyard, and that they can just find that. The more that we can find that inner peace, which really is coming from our brain waves, the more effective at everything in our lives will be.
And how that connects to manifestation is, as your energy field gets clearer, that's what you're putting out. That connects to the energy of the universe, and therefore that's what you get back.
I believe, and that's not incorrect, but I would add to that,
Okay.
that I believe that we can't feed our subconscious mind, hence the universe, the programs and images and emotions that we want to feel, unless we can get through to the subconscious mind. And I believe that the busy brain, our busy beta brain, is like the moat to the castle. And so I always say that there's this moat, there's this river, and you've got to cross that to get to the castle. And the castle is your manifestation, your subconscious mind, the quantum field, but you've got to cross it. And I believe reduced brain waves is the answer to helping you reach it. Does that make sense?
It does. It really does. You have a manifestation process that you teach, Tamara. Do you mind telling us a little bit about what that is?
Oh, absolutely. So I have actually taken in, and in all of my books, it evolves. And in fact, I unintentionally started writing my 23rd book. I didn't mean to, but it just, sometimes I get these downloads and I just have to. So they evolve. So I'll just share with you what I believe and what I teach. And that is a combination of what I know from science and some of my favorite metaphysical teachers, like Neville Goddard. One of my favorites.
Yeah.
Some of the old school people, and as far as the new science goes, and I love Joe Dispenza. I don't know if you know him or not, but
Of course.
I've talked to him quite a bit, and he incorporates more of the science. So kind of using those both techniques. So my process is, first of all, you have to come up with what you want, because amazingly, most people don't know what they want. And I don't think we have time in this podcast to talk about money, but I would love to have that discussion with you. But most people don't know what they really, really want.
Yeah.
So we come up with our true desire, our heart's desire. And then we create a picture of what that desire, what having that desire would look like. Then we go fast forward in time, maybe an hour, maybe a week, maybe 3 months, to a picture of what it would look like if we had already accumulated that. And what I mean by that is, let's say your desire is you want to win a court case. Well, I don't want you to think about the judge with the gavel saying you won. Let's go past that. Let's go to where you're having dinner with your friends celebrating. Okay. Let's go past it. It's already happened. It's implied. So we get that image. And then from there, we do the brain relaxing thing, whether it's with the binaural beats, whether it's through guidedness or you're doing it on your own. And you see that image. But here's what's really important, Jackie. The universe, the language of the universe, I always say, is images and emotions.
Yes.
And this as being a therapist, your subconscious mind, this is why hypnotherapy works. It doesn't know what's real or what's imagined.
Right.
And if it's imagined with emotion, it's going to believe it.
Right.
So we see that image and we feel the emotion. And now we're getting our body, meaning our subconscious mind, and our energy field involved, because our body's releasing the chemicals. And we just had this, how we're going to feel. We're going to be so excited. Serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin. I mean, it's all coming down. And we're so thrilled and immersed in the experience that when we do it, it takes practice. But when we do it, when we open our eyes, it shouldn't feel like that was a chore. It should feel like, oh, that was so beautiful. I can't wait to go back there. Mm-hmm. And over time, things happen in the quantum field. We collapse waves and things happen, and it starts showing up in your life in just the strangest, craziest ways, right? And I know you know what I'm talking about with that.
So great. It's such a great,
like your story about the lake house and how that just unfolded for you. I love that because it's exactly what I'm talking about.
Exactly right. You're not going to believe this, but I actually, just before we started this podcast, taught that exact same manifestation process in my program called Living in the Domain of Miracles.
Oh, that's awesome. I never heard about that class.
It's a wonderful.
Can I give you, I know that you're so generous in giving. I just want to give a shout out to your audience. Your class, is it Manifesting Money in Hard Times?
The Millionaire Mind, the Mastering the Millionaire Mind?
No, I think I saw that you have that coming up, which I'm definitely going to, but your class that you sell that is just ridiculously inexpensive.
Yeah. So I sell that one, and I also sell Money Mindset for Challenging Times.
Money Mindset for Challenging Times. I have to say, I could not believe. I sent the link to my kids. I have 4 adult kids. I'm like, this is in your budget.
Right.
For them, because then they won't do it.
Right.
This is in your budget. Trust me. This is the real deal. You need to watch this. You don't listen to me. I'm your mom. Listen to this woman. And it's just such a beautiful class. I could not believe how inexpensive it is. So I just hope all of your listeners and your viewers sign up for that class, because it's like ridiculously inexpensive.
Oh, you're so kind. Yeah. I do keep the prices of my digital courses low because I really want people to be able to access this information without, and especially people who might not have the means to spend $3,000 for that kind of education,
And you tell it all. I mean, you're so generous. It's like, this is it, guys. This is what you need to know if you want more money. There's no now you need to sign up for this program. This is, you give them the facts, the science, the spirituality. It's just beautifully done.
Thank you so much. That's really kind. I'm glad you went through the course. So what gets in the way? We just talked about some of the things that get in the way of people actually being able to manifest. I taught this an hour ago. I'll lead. A couple of things that I talked about are the shiny new object syndrome, right? Like, so it gets in the way of people being effective, masterful manifestors. And one of the things I taught is like, we're so distracted. And people don't realize that to literally use your energy your thought, your emotion, your vibratory pattern of energy to go out into the universe and create something energetically from nothing, to bring the universe together. It takes a lot of focus, and it takes, right?
Yes.
So that's one of the things that I just taught is, we're so distracted, the shiny new object. Oh, I want this. Oh no, really, I want that. And people don't recognize that it has to be a practice, like going to the gym is a practice. That manifestation, if you're serious about it, needs to be a practice. But what are the other things that you see just get in the way so that people actually don't end up having that experience?
Well, first of all, 100%, you're right on focus. What I would add to that goes back to what I said a few minutes ago about people not really knowing what they want. And so if you don't really know what you want and it's not your soul calling in your heart, you're going to be distracted. It's when you know what you want. Like I knew I wanted to be a writer when I was 10 years old. So nothing, no matter what's been going on in my life, how crazy things have been, I always write. So knowing what you want. I would say the number one thing that gets in people's way is focusing on what they don't want instead of what they want. So it's definitely under the umbrella of focus. Like if you
the
can
anxious mind.
But what happens is we are continuously surrounded externally by what we don't want, the lack of what we want. We're paying more attention to our 3D world, which brings us back to the whole meditation thing. The more time we spend in a quiet brainwave, whether it's in nature or with closed eyes, the more we can remember and imagine the thing that we want. But if I open my eyes and I look like, or you do money stuff. If I look at my bank balance, I'm like, oh my gosh, look at how can Jackie and Tamara say that I can have whatever I want? I'm surrounded by the lack of it because you're looking at the lack of it. So this is why metacreation, my term for it, is so vital to people's success, because if you're constantly surrounded by what you don't want, you've got to take your focus off of it long enough to imagine what you do want. So that becomes part of your energy field.
I love that. I was just reading in Science of Mind magazine about speaking truth to circumstance. Isn't that a great phrase? So rather than, so you have your circumstance, like perhaps a circumstance of lack, right? Your bank account isn't what you want it to be, or some experience of lack. And rather than seeing the lack, seeing truth. And truth is we live in an abundant universe.
Absolutely.
Right.
You don't see trees being stingy with their leaves, right?
Right. You don't see the pebbles on the shore worrying about having not enough of them. Right.
And Jackie, this is what goes back to the whole programming thing, because if it's the meaning we give things, and we give things meaning, as you know, based on our previous experiences, even if they're back in our minds and we don't recognize or remember them consciously.
Yeah. Exactly right. The meaning that we bring to things, our lens of perception, which, as you know, is your level of consciousness, which is why it's so important that to focus on raising your vibe, raising your level of consciousness through what you believe, how you think, and how you feel.
Absolutely.
Before we got on, we were talking about this notion of you need to change your identity to have better results. And that's a big, big statement, Tamara. So let's kind of wrap with that. What do you mean?
Okay, let's riff a little bit on that.
Yeah.
I think it's everything. I believe that a lot of times when people don't get what they want, it's because they haven't become the person who already has them. So if I want to be, let's just say, I don't know, let's say I want to be a New York Times bestselling author.
Okay.
And that's what I want. I've got to step into the identity, the energy of what that person would be. Because if I already had the energy of that best-selling author, I would be her. You see? So it gives us, what it does in my mind, Jackie, and where it's really helped my coaching clients, is it takes us out of, I want to attract things into my life, and makes us, I want to become the version of the person who has those things. It's a big, huge, huge difference. And am I trying to get things to come to me, or am I trying to become the person who has those things naturally?
And what are again, maybe this is redundant, but what are the things that you have people do to become that person, or develop that level of energy? And before you answer that, it's reminding me of a quote by the Abraham Hicks authors. If you don't have what you desire, it's because you've yet to create yourself as the vibratory match of your desire.
Okay, you know what? I do not know that quote. I used to listen to Abraham years ago, but I do always say, and I write about this in my books, you have to become an energetic match.
Yeah,
So
an energetic,
perhaps
right.
it's absolutely possible that that's where I got it from many years ago, and I just never knew that.
Never
But
realized it. Yeah.
but the thing is, how do I do that? My favorite word is embodiment.
Okay.
So when we're doing the practice that I was talking about, and we're actually feeling the feeling of already having what we want, how do you feel? I feel great. Okay. Now that great you, tell me some of the traits about that great you. Does that great you get really irritated if the mail's late? If that great you has a bill that's past due, do you get really mad? How would that version of you react? So it's really a matter of developing and cultivating consciously, and at a relaxed brain waves as well, cultivating what are the traits of the person who would have what you have. And now you get to practice stepping into that version of you. You know, would that person go to the gym more? Would that person, eat better? What would that version of you? Because we always say, well, when I have millions of dollars, or when I graduate school, or when I have kids, or whatever it is, why can't you start embodying that energy now? And it just comes to you so much more quickly.
Wow, that's so, so great. I used to, years ago, I had a group of friends like a kind of a support group of women, we were just mentoring each other, mastermind. I guess it was a
Mastermind. That's it. Yeah.
And we would have breakfast at the Ritz once a month.
Yeah.
To embody that energy of luxury and
Yes.
wealth, and just bringing that into our lives. So we would do our monthly breakfast at the Ritz, our millionaire roundtable.
That's a perfect example of embodiment.
Yeah.
It's not acting as if, it kind of is feeling as if, but
Yeah.
it's stepping into that version of yourself. Why can't you be that person now? Why can't you
Exactly.
go to the Ritz?
Yeah, yeah. So you and I'll have to go have lunch next door to Random House, or one of the New York
Something.
publishers.
I don't. The New York Times thing is not for me anymore. I don't. That's not mine anymore. I was just using that as an example, but yeah.
Well, with 22 books already behind you, and 23rd.
Who wants to share with the publisher?
I know, right? Who wants to share with a publisher? Exactly right. Yeah. I mean, how did you write 22 books? I'm amazed.
Just everything we're talking about. I decided that I wanted to be I decided, and you may laugh at me, but you'll probably remember this with me. When I was about 10 years old, I fell in love with John Boy Walton.
Oh yeah, of course.
And John Boy Walton was a writer. And at that point, my mom had already told me that I wrote all the time, that, when I was younger, but that's my first conscious memory of wanting to be a writer. And he was also a college professor. And so that made an image in my mind that my two goals in life were to become a college professor and a writer. And so that's what I am. And that's what I did. And now my vision, probably as of 20 years ago, is to help share this material and these teachings from both spirituality and science, and helping more people just find that inner peace. And, it's not always about manifesting luxury and wealth. It's about manifesting a life that you love.
Yeah.
Right?
And peace of mind and a happy heart. Right. That's highly underrated in our world today. Peace of mind,
underrated.
a grateful heart. Tamara, thank you so, so much. I'm so glad that we met through other courses. And I just so appreciate the depth of your expertise and your wisdom, and how many practical things you've shared with our audience today. For people that want to find your books, or maybe work with you in coaching, what would be the best way for people to get in touch with you?
They could go to my website, which is tamaradoris.com. Okay. Or if people are on Facebook, they can join my Mindful Manifestors group. It's a free group. And I like right now in July, we're having No Judgment July. So every day I post things about, are you judging? Be aware. So it's a fun little free group if people are interested in that.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to go join it. What's the name of it again?
It's Mindful Manifestors.
Mindful Manifestors. All right. Awesome. I'm definitely going to go join that. That's so great. Thank you for being our partner and being a guest with us today. Just such a delightful, delightful experience. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you for all you do.
Mwah.